Hey guys, welcome back. Today, we're going to explain a story called Me and Me. The story begins with a cheerful middle-class couple who have recently moved from the city to a quiet little village. Shi-ong, the husband, works as a school teacher, but he's been hiding a deep secret inside him for years, a secret so strange, it makes people question what's even possible. Like any normal day, he comes home from school, where his loving wife has prepared a delicious meal for him. Today's dinner brings back memories from his childhood. He tells her how his mother raised him through incredible hardship, nurturing and protecting him. As he talks more about his mother, something surreal begins to happen. His wife slowly starts transforming into his mother. She eats like her, talks like her, even smiles like her, and lovingly cares for Shi-ong as if he were her little boy. But this isn't new. Every night, she transforms into someone else, some different identity. And by the next morning, she forgets it all. She's been suffering from this rare psychological illness for years. That's why Shi-ong brought her to this remote village where no one knows them, and they won't become the subject of gossip or judgment. Meanwhile, Lee, his wife, tries to stay distracted and emotionally stable by joining a local craft class. Her teacher praises her creativity and quick learning. One day, she proudly shows a handmade doll to Shi-ong. He gently tells her, "We should think about starting a family someday." But her smile fades, and she replies sadly, "No, not yet. I'm not like other people. I'm not normal." Her words sting with pain. Trying to lighten the mood, Shi-ong starts doing silly comedy, making her laugh. For a moment, it works. Lee breaks into a smile, almost like she's watching a stand-up comedy show. At around 1:40, we see that Lee begins enjoying Shi-ong's jokes and even starts acting like a stand-up comedian herself. She playfully imitates a stage performance, making silly gestures near the window. Coincidentally, their neighbor happens to see this from his own window. But to him, it all looks completely normal, just a happy couple fooling around, so he doesn't give it much thought and quietly walks away. As night falls, a neighbor comes by their house to return something. But what he sees from the window shakes him to the core. Through the window, he witnesses Lee strangling her husband, hands tight around his neck, her face twisted with rage. He panics and immediately runs off, terrified. But Shi-ong spots him fleeing and rushes outside to stop him. He tries to explain the truth, that Lee is suffering from a rare mental disorder, which makes her become a different person every night, someone who has no memory of who she is or what she's doing. The neighbor, still in shock, finds it hard to believe at first. It sounds too bizarre. But Shi-ong, desperate and tired, pleads with him. He begs the neighbor not to tell anyone, not yet. The neighbor reluctantly promises. But come on, how long can such a secret really stay hidden? As expected, whispers turn into rumors, and rumors become the village's favorite gossip. Slowly but surely, the entire village finds out about Lee's condition. Eventually, a local council meeting is called. The village elders sit together and make a harsh decision. Every night, Lee must be locked in a separate room for everyone's safety. And the key? It would be handed over to their neighbor, the same man who witnessed the horrifying moment through the window. Morning after morning, he'd come to unlock the door. The news spreads quickly, and soon, everyone starts believing that Lee is possessed by some spirit every night. They think that's why she behaves so strangely. Even though Shi-ong and Lee don't want to believe these superstitions, they are forced to agree, because if they don't, they'll be thrown out of the village. A few days later, the villagers install iron grills on all the windows of their house, completely locking it up like a cage. It becomes harder and harder for Lee to bear this kind of treatment, and Shi-ong can't take it anymore either. So, in desperation, he asks the neighbor to lock him up in the room with his wife, because he can't bear to see her suffer alone. But what neither of them realizes, is that this might be the last night of their lives. The next morning, the villagers are left completely shocked. Shi-ong's entire house had burned down during the night. Apparently, after the neighbor had left, having locked them together inside, a short circuit caused a fire in the house. The fire spread gradually, and when Shi-ong and Lee tried to escape, they couldn't because the main door was locked from the outside. It was made of solid iron, impossible to break. Trapped inside, both of them burned to death. And maybe, just maybe, the villagers had a part to play in this tragedy. Well, That's something we'll find out later. After this horrifying incident, the case becomes national news. And to investigate the matter, one of the best and most intelligent investigation officers in the country is called in, Mr. Park, a man known for his sharp instincts and unwavering determination to uncover the truth. They find out that the fire in the house was caused by a short circuit. But what really puzzles the investigators is why there were iron rods installed outside the house and why it was completely sealed off. They strongly suspect that the villagers are hiding something from them. Meanwhile, Hai-Hu and his companions are extremely anxious because they were the ones who had locked the house from outside. It was because of them that both Shi-ong and Lee lost their lives. Now, they could even end up in jail. As the story progresses, it begins to make the viewers question many things. Is something like this even possible? Moving forward, the villagers start panicking so much that they begin to fight amongst themselves. Seeing this chaos, Officer Park becomes even more suspicious. His doubts now start turning into certainty. He begins to feel that maybe the villagers had intentionally set the house on fire because they didn't like the couple. Later that night, Park returns home. While crossing a road, his car slightly scrapes another vehicle. A woman notices this incident, and in response, Park writes his phone number on a piece of paper and sticks it to the car so that he can take responsibility for the damages. Here, we also get to know more about Mr. Park. He isn't very happy with his job, as he hardly gets any time for his family. We also learn that his younger son suffers from asthma, which adds to his stress. His wife is extremely worried. The next morning, Mr. Park sets out once again for the investigation. He notices that the paper he had left on the car's wiper is still there. First, he looks around carefully and then quietly slips the paper into his pocket. After that, he goes to Hai-Hu and starts questioning him about Shi-ong, since Hai-Hu was the closest person to him and also his neighbor. After that, Mr. Park begins questioning the rest of the villagers one by one. However, everyone's answers are inconsistent and suspicious. This constant questioning leaves the whole village tense and restless. Finally, out of fear, the villagers reveal the truth about Lee's illness to Mr. Park. Learning this is shocking for him. He wonders how a single person can exhibit so many different personalities. Mr. Park starts believing even more strongly that someone from the village must be involved in the incident and that they are all covering up the truth with this illness story. Continuing his investigation, Mr. Park walks into a nearby consultation room and finds a birthday party going on there. Upon asking, he finds out that the party is for the oldest man in the village. Meanwhile, that old man, worried about going to jail, makes a big confession in front of everyone, that he was the one who had ordered the iron gates to be installed. He even invites Mr. Park to join them for dinner. Hearing this confession, all the villagers are overjoyed. Because now the confusion was cleared, and they were all free from suspicion. After this, everyone offers Mr. Park a special beer brewed by the old man himself. Everyone sits together, enjoying, and the party continues late into the night. Mr. Park drinks so much that he completely loses track of his way home. He is finally awakened by a phone call. It's from the principal, asking him to come to the school. Still half asleep and thinking it's a wrong number, he cuts the call. But when he fully wakes up and looks around, he is absolutely shocked. The house he had slept in was the same house that had caught fire just a few days ago. However, what was even stranger was that the house looked perfectly fine, as if nothing had ever happened. Just then, Han-Yu opens the gate and apologizes, saying, "Teacher, sorry I'm late in coming here." Mr. Park is completely confused. Why is everyone calling him teacher? Disturbed, he thinks of smoking a cigarette. While searching his pocket, he finds the same paper he had earlier placed on the car wiper. When he checks the number written on it, he sees this number does not exist. At this point, his mind starts spiraling into chaos. Mr. Park couldn't understand what was happening to him. Panicking, he hurried back towards his own house. But when he tried to unlock the door, the lock kept showing an error code, meaning the password he was entering was being rejected. He banged on the door desperately, and finally, an old man opened it from inside and said, "This is my house. What do you want?" In a state of shock, Mr. Park forcibly pushed his way inside. But everything inside looked different. It didn't feel like his home at all. He screamed and fought, insisting, "This is my address. Where is my house?" Seeing the commotion, the neighbors called the police. Mr. Park was arrested and taken away. Since he had no family to call, the school principal came forward to bail him out. Otherwise, he would have remained locked up in jail. But Mr. Park didn't stop there. He immediately rushed to his children's school, only to be hit with yet another shock. The staff told him that there were no students enrolled under his children's names. Furious and frustrated, Mr. Park shouted, "How is this possible? I've even attended functions here with my children." But the staff coldly replied, "Sir, we don't know you. And no child with that name has ever studied here." At this point, Mr. Park's patience and mental strength began to crumble. Feeling completely helpless and lost, he wandered back to the same burnt house. Because now, he had nowhere else to go. No home. No family. Nothing. Now, without a family or home, Mr. Park had no idea where to go. Sitting alone in the abandoned house, Ha-yu found him and asked, "Teacher, why aren't you going to school?" But Mr. Park, confused and desperate, began asking strange questions. Questions that Ha-yu couldn't understand. He asked, "Where are Shi-ong and his wife, who used to live here? Where is my wife?" Ha-yu looked at him strangely and said, "Sir, you've never been married. You told me yourself to lock you up every night. Because you have a disease that makes you turn into someone else after dark." The next day, with nothing left to do, Mr. Park decided to go to school. There, all the children started calling him teacher. At that point, he realized he had no choice but to accept it. He was now their teacher. Feeling overwhelmed and confused, he ran away from the school. But Mr. Park wasn't someone who would give up so easily. Determined to find answers, he bought some alcohol and food, and went to Ha-yu's place, hoping to get him drunk and make him reveal the truth. Sitting together, Mr. Park started talking about his family and his past life. He explained how hard he had worked to become a police officer. He talked about the day he was assigned a case involving a house fire, and how, ever since that day, his entire reality had changed. People had stopped recognizing him as a policeman, and instead started calling him a teacher. Hearing all of this, Ha-yu still didn't really understand what Mr. Park was saying. But he kept listening patiently. Yet no matter how many times Mr. Park questioned him, Ha-yu only repeated the same thing. "Sir, you are our teacher." Ha-yu said, "Maybe you're just dreaming, sir." But Mr. Park replied, "If this were just a dream, how could it go on for so long? Do you think I'm crazy? I'm not crazy." Still, Ha-yu wasn't ready to accept anything Mr. Park said. Frustrated and heartbroken, Mr. Park finally gave up trying to convince him. In a moment of madness, he set fire to that place and ran away. Soon after, we see the entire place engulfed in flames, completely destroyed. At the scene, Mr. Park notices a stretcher being carried away. He rushes over to it, but to his shock, it wasn't Ha-yu on the stretcher. It was the body of a deer. Ha-yu was still alive. Seeing all this, Mr. Park became terrified. He started questioning his own sanity, wondering if he was truly losing his mind. Because such sudden and drastic changes in life seemed impossible. It was becoming harder and harder for him to hold on to reality. Desperate, he returned to the house where Shi-ong and his wife once lived, searching for any proof that he was right. He turned the house upside down looking for evidence. But all he found in one corner were items belonging to a teacher. An ID card, bank cards, checkbooks, and a driving license. And on every single document, there was only one picture, his own. At that moment, he realized something terrifying. It was as if his entire past had been completely erased. Still desperate for help, but slowly losing all hope, Mr. Park stood there, feeling more alone than ever. But he still didn't give up and went to Ha-yu once again. Ha-yu was feeling down because his greenhouse had burned down in a fire and it was Mr. Park who had set the fire. But Ha-yu didn't know about that. His entire greenhouse was destroyed. Mr. Park, noticing Ha-yu's sadness, tried to console him, but Ha-yu was already troubled by the loss. Ha-yu, looking overwhelmed, told Mr. Park that he should leave. But Mr. Park, desperate and on the verge of tears, begged for help. Seeing Mr. Park so vulnerable and broken, Ha-yu, though initially reluctant, finally agreed to help him. The next day, Ha-yu took Mr. Park to a secretary, who was also his friend. The secretary tried to figure out what was going on but couldn't find much information. After the conversation, the doctor, who had been observing Mr. Park, explained that everything he had seen was just a dream. It wasn't real. Mr. Park, however, refused to believe it. He kept insisting that it wasn't a dream but reality. But if it was real, then where was his wife and child? Where was his home? These questions kept troubling him. Later that day, after his class, as he was heading home, Mr. Park saw his wife. He was shocked to see her. But, to his surprise, she wasn't alone. She was having dinner with some friends. Mr. Park felt even more confused. He wanted to join them for dinner, but when he sat in front of her, he realized she didn't recognize him. She didn't even look at him. Instead, she told everyone that she didn't know him, and that was when Mr. Park's entire world started to feel unreal. Her husband's transfer was coming soon, and Mr. Park asked about her children. She told him that her eldest son was doing very well in Unity and playing sports excellently. Then, Mr. Park asked about her younger daughter's asthma, and upon hearing this, she paused and looked at him strangely. She replied, "She's perfectly fine. She doesn't have any such illness." Everyone at the table started to look at Mr. Park in a strange way, and he couldn't speak another word. Feeling uncomfortable, he left and went straight to his home, where he felt very lonely. After that, he decided to visit the old man's house, where he had drunk the strange beer. After drinking it, everything had changed. He hoped that if he drank it again, everything would return to normal. He spent the entire night drinking the beer, and when he opened his eyes the next morning, he was still a teacher. He realized that he would have to live someone else's life from now on. He accepted it and decided to go to school, even getting rid of the iron gate at his place. This was the life he would have to live. A while later, he ran into the teacher from the trading classes, who had once been Lee's teacher. She asked him why he hadn't been attending classes for so long. Mr. Park was stunned because he had never seen this girl before. During the conversation between Mr. Park and the girl, Lansun, Park shares several personal thoughts and feelings. As they talk, Park reveals that he has been holding on to a number he found on a note. When he shows it to Lansun, she is surprised and says, "This number belonged to me 2 years ago. How did you get it?" But in Park's memory, that number has always belonged to him. He is confused and tries to understand why things aren't adding up. After that, they have a long conversation, and Mr. Park feels a little better talking to someone. There was no one with him at that time, but talking to this person made him feel somewhat okay. One day, he invites Lansun to dinner, and they talk a lot during the meal. Lansun feels that Mr. Park likes him, and she had been following him for 2 years. But Mr. Park, at this point, was overwhelmed with his own problems. Lansun reveals a secret: she suffers from a disease where every night, she changes into someone else. Or rather, whenever she talks about a character, she turns into that character. Hearing this, Mr. Park stays silent, just looking at her. He finally says, "I know how painful it must be. I can feel it." Hearing this, Lansun begins to cry, and the story ends there. The movie ends with an open conclusion, leaving viewers to question what really happened. It's possible that Park was experiencing a mental disorder, which caused him to create fictional memories. Shi-ong and Lee may not have existed at all, but were just characters in his mind. Throughout the movie, we see his confusion and struggles, making us wonder if everything we witnessed was just a product of his imagination. The story leaves us with more questions than answers, allowing us to reflect on the possibility that Park's reality was warped, and that the characters and events were mere projections of his own mind.